Hello, hi, I'm Punita here from Huawei Global Training Center, and today we're going to discuss about the content MAE based commissioning mode part 4. So, the first part here we're going to discuss about checking a transport network. So, checking whether the transport network meets the configuration requirement of the automatic OM channel establishment feature. So, remote engineers can use these methods to check whether the transport network meets this configuration or not. So, there are two types of method here. So, the method one, basically contact the department in charge of the transport network. See the transport network meet the automatic. So, you have to double check with the department itself that in charge of the transport network. So you have to contact the transport network person in charge to confirm the status. The second method number 2, check the network connectivity. So you have to make sure the network connectivity is okay. It allow and there is no packet loss. So we have to ensure this and we can able to ping the network. So check the configuration as well. So we have to ensure the configurations are also correct. So this is more like a operational activity because we need to check the configurations. Make sure it's configured correctly between the OM channel, base station, and the MAE. So make sure that they are automatically set up. So it's more related to the OM channel configuration. So next we're going to talk about the setting a file server for the NEs. A file server is required only when the NEs cannot directly establish FTP connections with the MAE server. So in most cases, a firewall will be deployed between the NAE and the server. So therefore, many NEs cannot directly establish the FTP connection. So in this case, you have to set up a file server. So this is in the case where if you cannot establish, if you cannot establish the FTP connection with the MAE server because of the firewall. So, a file server saves the software package of the NE and provides the FTP services. So basically, we need to use the FTP server for the software packages and NE downloads. So definitely, this portion is quite important. Next, setting environmental alarm. So this is also part of the commissioning process. We need to ensure that there are alarms reporting to the commissioning during the commissioning process, because since the commissioning process is taking place, the service impacted alarm will not be reported to the normal setup because we already switched it to the engineering mode. So you have to ensure the environmental alarm is still updating the status even though the commissioning is taking place. So we have to also do the settings of the environment alarm parameters. So set the alarm parameters. Next, preparing dialing test tools. So dialing test is important once the commissioning is completed. So we are used to check whether the base station can perform services or not through the test terminals, because we can't guarantee after the commissioning services will be normal. Sometimes services can be impacted. So we have to find out the reason and fix it. So commonly we will use terminals like test user equipment in order to test whether there is any service impacted or not. So the test user equipment has to be registered with the HSS server before the dialing test. So basically, we use test user equipment and have to make sure it has registered with the HSS server. And this is to ensure that the base station can perform the services. So hardware installation and power on. So hardware installation and power on. So usually, after the hardware of the base station is installed, local engineers must perform hardware installation and power on checks. So this operation can be performed with other operations at the commissioning phase. So we have to make sure the hardware installation has installed, pass the installation check. So first you have to ensure the base station hardware has been installed, pass the installation check. Then you have to ensure the base station has been powered on. So first thing, installation, then you have to make sure it passed. Then third thing is power on. Then have to make sure it also passed the power on check. So different types of base station, they have different hardware installation check procedures and different power on installation check as well. So creating an any commissioning task. So basically, when you are creating an any commissioning task, you have to ensure that you have to import the deployment list. Creating the any task depending on the deployment list. That means you are also making sure the XML script is updated and have to make sure the software version is the same. That means the remote and the local software version before the upgrade need to be the same version. So that is why we need to create a commissioning task and need to import the deployment list. And also we have to detect the CPRI cable connections before we start the commissioning process. So this can be done at the auto deployment under the SON parameter. So starting the any commissioning task. So basically, once the task has been created and once the detection has been done, you will need to set up the global parameter configuration. So in the global parameter configuration, you have to download the software, download the site configuration, activate the site, issue the license, and do a setup. And if there is any settings need to be changed like VSWR or PIM related. PIM is your passive intermodulation for the interlearn interference, and also site verification. So there are 3 tips here. Tip 1, tip 2, and tip 3. So this all need to be done before the commissioning task take place. Alright, so let's try to do this quiz question. Before starting any commissioning task, you need to dash and then dash, set the parameters and dash, select dash and click OK to start the any commissioning task. So the first one, select a commissioning task. Second one, import the deployment list. Third answer, extended parameter. And fourth one is site verification. So now the statement is complete. Before starting the any commissioning task, you need to select a commissioning task and then import the deployment list, set parameters and extended parameter, select site verification and click OK to start the any commissioning task. So that is the summary of part 4. So in this commissioning mode, we have discussed about how to check the transport network, how to set the file server, how to set the environmental alarm parameters, how to prepare the dialing test tools, what is hardware installation and power on, so what are the paths, why we need to check the path option, and also how to start and create any commissioning task. I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye.